As a kid, all a nigga wanna have was a Burberry scarf and $3 in my pocket. Instead I got beat with a switch, but I don't give a fuck, but it's on my body. Scars all up on me, but I run around from everybody. Life lesson learned, I better learn from this bitch, nobody. She pushed me around, she didn't give no motherfucks about it. She broke my heart 3 times, but I ain't getting...
We have Oklahoma taking on Oklahoma State. Oklahoma is coming into this game 5-1, currently ranked 14th in the nation, coming off a win last week against Kansas State, which they won that game 20-18. Now, here's what's really weird about Oklahoma State, and this just goes to show you how crazy and unpredictable 2020 is. In all my years watching college football, I've never remembered Oklahoma State's defense being better than their offense. Oklahoma State, for the first time in my lifetime, is winning games because of their defense. They have the best defense in the Big 12. And their offense has kind of struggled this year. Now, last week, they barely walked out with a victory against Kansas State because they were missing two of their best playmakers on offense. Tylan Wallace sat out that game, one of the best wide receivers in college football, and Chuba Hubbard is banged up as well. Now, Tylan Wallace should be expected to play in this game. Chuba Hubbard is listed as questionable in this game. His status for this game is up in the air. But even despite missing two of their best players on offense in that game, they still were able to win that game because of defense. That's crazy. Who would have thought that Oklahoma State would be winning games because of how great their defense is? Normally, we're talking about how great Oklahoma State's offense is and talking about how bad their defense is. But their defense has been really good. There are a lot of players on this Oklahoma State defense that are going to be playing on Sunday. They have a really good defensive line. Their secondary is really good. So, I mean, Oklahoma State is stacked on defense. Meanwhile, you look at Oklahoma right now. Oklahoma is having a down year. They're currently 5-2, ranked 18th in the nation, and they're coming off a dominating win against Kansas, 62-9. But let's be honest, who hasn't dominated Kansas? Now, when I say a down year, I say Oklahoma is having a down year, not because they're terrible, but because we're normally accustomed to seeing Oklahoma in the national championship picture, in the college football playoff conversation. Haven't really been able to talk about Oklahoma because they haven't really been in that conversation because they're 5-2. So their chances of making it to the playoffs are pretty much done. But for Oklahoma, I mean, there are a lot of college football fans out there that would like their down season to be what your down season is right now. I mean, Oklahoma is pretty much going to end up playing in a New Year's Six bowl game, hopefully. And they're still going to end up having a really good year. Most fans would love their down year to be the down year that you're having right now. And the reason for Oklahoma having a down year has been because of their young quarterback, Spencer Rattler. You see, Spencer Rattler is a freshman quarterback, a redshirt freshman quarterback, and he has had his growing pains and he has had his struggles, his ups and downs this season. He's had some really good games. He's had some really bad performances. But over the last couple of weeks, he has really picked it up. He's been really good over the last couple of weeks for Oklahoma. And when you're Oklahoma, this is the first time under Lincoln Riley that he is developing his own quarterback. Because remember in the past, Oklahoma has had their quarterbacks come from the transfer portal. Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray and Jalen Hurts. This year, this is really the first time that Lincoln Riley really has to develop his own quarterback, which is a good thing. Okay? And Spencer Rattler is going to end up becoming a really good quarterback. I think Spencer Rattler is a mixture of Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield because he's really good throwing the football like Baker was, but he also is able to run the football as well. Now, he's not as good as a runner as Kyler Murray was, but he can do some damage with his legs if he has to. So for Oklahoma, you're a 7-point favorite heading into this game. And the reason for that is because Oklahoma State, even though their defense has been great, there are a lot of big questions about their offense. And in college football, it doesn't matter how great of a defense you have, you still have to be able to put points on offense. Look at Georgia, for example. Georgia has this great defense, but their offense has held them back from winning the national championship over the last couple of years. And you have to be able to have a good offense if you want to be able to win a national championship. It doesn't matter how great of a defense you have if you don't have an offense that's able to put up 40 points or that's able to hold their own in the shootout. And for Oklahoma State, this is really odd that I'm about to ask this question, but is Oklahoma State going to be able to keep up with Oklahoma's offense? Now, that may sound really weird, like I'm even having a hard time uttering that out of my mouth, because where have we ever had a question of Oklahoma State's offense? Like, one of the more consistent game things in life has always been death, puberty, and Oklahoma State having a great offense. Well, this year, that has changed. Oklahoma State's offense has been inconsistent this year. They're not great on third down. They have one of the worst third down offenses in college football. They're 71st on offense and third down conversion percentage. They only convert on third down 38.89% of the time. That's not good. They were 4-15 on third down against Kansas State in their last matchup. And for them on offense, they're 60th in college football in points per game. They're only scoring 28 points per game. They're 52nd in yards per game. They're 42nd in running the football with 109 rushing yards per game. I think that's pretty solid. But they're 77th in college football in passing yards per game with 219. And their offensive line hasn't been great neither. They're allowing almost 3 sacks per game. So Oklahoma State's offense hasn't been that good. And I understand that early on in the season, they had an injury to their starting quarterback. But even when he has played, I haven't really been all that impressed with Spencer Sanders' play this year. I think he's been fairly inconsistent. All right? And for Oklahoma, their defense isn't as bad as what it normally is. All right? Their defense has kind of improved somewhat this season. Now, their defense still isn't great, but their defense is to the point like you can rely on them to get a stop or two or get a big turnover to win the game for you in certain situations. So for Oklahoma State, if they're going to win this game, it's going to be because of how great this defense is. Now, the question is Spencer Rattler going to continue his hot streak, or is he going to show signs of the Spencer Rattler that we saw earlier this season, looking like a freshman when he was turning the football over, kind of looking indecisive at times? And if Oklahoma State wants to win this game, it's going to be because of how great this defense is. This defense is going to have at least a turnover or two if they want to win this game. Because his offense is going to put up points, but it's not going to be to the magnitude that we're accustomed to seeing out of Oklahoma State. Like, Oklahoma State is probably going to put up 28 points, maybe 30, but the chances of Oklahoma State hitting 40 points in this game, I don't really have a lot of confidence in. And I know Oklahoma's defense isn't that great, but Oklahoma State's offense isn't that great neither. And I don't think Oklahoma's defense is bad to the point that it's going to make Oklahoma State's offense look like a great offense. All right, because they've had their fair share of struggles, and we don't know the status of Chuba Hubbard going into this game. And the passing game for Oklahoma State has been pretty inconsistent. And even then, even despite not having their best players, on a good year when Oklahoma State is normally rolling on offense, they still would put up 40 points against a school like Kansas. So for me, I have concerns about Oklahoma State being able to keep up with Oklahoma if this game heads into a shootout territory. If this game comes down to a shootout, I don't really have a lot of confidence in Oklahoma State's offense. And I know they got into a shootout a couple of weeks against Texas. That game went into overtime, but Texas prevailed in that game. All right? And really, that is a game that Oklahoma State should have won, but they didn't because they turned the football over a good amount of times. And anytime you turn the football over, the amount of times that Oklahoma State did against Texas, you're going to win. Well, you're going to lose more time than not. So for Oklahoma State, I don't really trust their offense in this game. All right? But I don't really have a lot of confidence in Oklahoma's defense neither. But I'm still going to side with Oklahoma to pull off the victory. I'm going to say Oklahoma wins this game 45-38 is my final score prediction in this game. Oklahoma's going to put up points. Will they put up 40 points? I don't really think so. Now, I think they do put up 38 points. They come close to putting up 40. But I think that Oklahoma is going to prevail in the end. I think that Spencer Rattler is going to have a really good game. And that I think that Oklahoma isn't really going to have a game that they're going to be able to get those key stops that they are accustomed to having on defense, because Oklahoma pretty much has the best offense in the Big 12. And this is the best offense that Oklahoma State has played so far this season. Now, this defense is going to be able to hold their own. They are going to get a couple of stops, but is the offense going to be able to take advantage of those stops that the defense gives them? I don't really know. A lot of inconsistency from Spencer Sanders, and I don't really trust Oklahoma State's offense. And I know they got into a shootout against Texas, but that's Texas. Oklahoma is better than Texas. So for me, I got to take Oklahoma to win this game. So